Konei te reurirangi o Tuwharetoa I kiana ko te maunga, te moana, te waiata. Wa ko waiho māku te maringa nui he whakawhiti kōrero ki te taha o tēnei tangata. Now, he is the program director at Tahu FM, but he's also a resident in Christchurch, and he was there at the time of the earthquake. We're essentially going to get a run-through of everything he's been through since yesterday afternoon right through until today. A good friend of mine by the name of Aubrey Hughes is online with us. Aubz, thanks for joining us, brother.
Oh, kia ora kia koe. Karam, a mihi ati kia kaitai tiwi whānui o Tuwharetoa.
Ka pai. Tuatahi mai hua, where were you when the earthquake took place?
I was in the gym.
Oh.
I was on my lunch break.
Yep.
It was just at the tail end of the lunch break yesterday, so very busy in town. And I was in the cardio room downstairs, and it happened, and I was on my cross trainer. And it's difficult enough to dismount from a cross trainer when the room isn't moving, let alone when there's an earthquake on.
Yeah.
So I tried to untangle myself from it, and the whole building was jumping up and down, and a couple of ladies in front of me had just basically thrown themselves on the floor. So I grabbed them and pulled us all into this doorway, the doorway going into the cardio room. It's the safest place to be downstairs, and on the other side of the gym is a big sort of glass. The whole wall is basically a big picture window, and you can look across the car park to the CTV building.
Yeah.
And just as we opened up the doors and stood in there, we looked out the window, and the whole CTV building just collapsed as we were watching it, and a big puff of grey dust, and you could see the cloud rolling towards the gym, and people running out of the crowd trying to stay ahead of it. And the two ladies with me freaked out because they thought some way that would impact the gym, but of course it didn't and stuff. And then we got hustled on outside, and it was bedlam. The gym itself was okay. That was only built last year, but the sidewalk was ripped up, and there was water bubbling from underneath and flowing back into the gym, and just lots of people sitting around on the gutters crying and sobbing. And the CTV people were coming back from their lunch break, and you could see them with their, with their bags of sandwiches and stuff like that. And the building they left 15 minutes before was gone, and they still had lots of workmates inside there. So they, I can't even imagine what that would have felt like.
Mm. At that point, what were you thinking, Aubz?
I was trying to call my partner. That's what I was doing as soon as I got out of the gym.
Yeah.
And I got a text from her, and I couldn't text her back because my network was down, and it stayed down for the next 4 hours, which was very, very frustrating. On the upside, I knew she was okay, so that was just a huge load off my mind.
Yeah.
And the next part was trying to find her and my workmates. And so we were all ushered to Latimer Square, which is a park in the middle of town, and they try to get you to a place where there are no tall buildings around, and that was just shocker with people. And the CTV, the remains of the CTV building had started, it had caught fire, so that smoke was drifting across the park, and there were just lots of people yelling out for their friends because the networks weren't going, and they were trying to find each other, and people lying on the ground crying, and it was like a plane crash. I've never experienced anything like it, but I found it so whānau, and we were all present and accounted for, and we tipped everyone off, and everyone went on their way, and I came home to find my mate.
Yeah. Now, how did your partner react? I mean, you said the network was down for 4 hours, so obviously you couldn't get the message out to her to say that you were all right. I
probably hung out in the square for about an hour-ish.
Yeah.
I hung around with a few staff members who were trying to find friends of theirs, and it was down for about 4 hours, but I was only there for an hour, and then found Denise, and then I was trying to answer other texts from my family up north and other people, and couldn't get through. So, but the power was still on at our place, and it's still on. So parts of the CBD still had power, so our wireless router was still going in our flat. So we just sat outside with blankets and some food and my partner's laptop. And we went on Facebook. I just put a thing on Facebook saying, I'm fine, thanks for all the texts, I can't answer you back. And after that, all my texts were, we're glad to hear you okay. And so that that was good. Chalk one up for Facebook.
It's funny because you mentioned that, and that was the first place I went to make sure that all of my friends that were down in the Christchurch region were okay.
Yeah.
It's the first place you go to, and then when I saw your post, I was like, oh, thank goodness. And I was thinking to myself, hope all the Tahu FM whānau are okay. So as a whole, how was Tahu FM affected?
Well, as I say, I wasn't in the building at the time, but it was pretty harsh. We were in an 8-storey building, and we were at the ground floor.
Yeah.
So when that building shakes, there are 7 floors ready to fall on you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what happened, but they cleared out of there fairly quickly. And other parts of Hereford Street is not pretty.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's got a bunch of missing teeth, and there are vehicles covered in bricks, and a lot of Colombo Street is like that as well. So realistically, we're probably not going to be allowed in our building till at least Monday, and a lot of Christchurch is closed down till at least that time as well. There's no school, no one's going to work. So yeah, we have to wait till we can get in there to get some power running, to get all our equipment back up and going, even to access it from the outside. Everything has to be switched on first, and someone has to go and do that. So it's all a waiting game at the moment.
Yeah. Describe your living conditions at this point in time, Aubz.
We're actually a lot better off than many people in the city. We're fairly close to the middle of town, so we've had power all the way through. A lot of the people out in the suburbs don't have power. No one has water. Well, they say 80% of the city doesn't have water, which we don't know anyone that does. And because there's no water, you have to go and find a portaloo somewhere, or if you're lucky enough to have a sizable back garden, you wait for nightfall, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, we came inside and we made the decision to stay at home last night rather than go to one of the shelters. Yeah. And so we just came in and we started sweeping up and picking things up, and I think it took about 4 buckets of glass out to the recycle bin. Every glass we own is gone. It wound up on the kitchen floor. So that gave us something to do, and it started to rain, so I took a laundry hamper and 3 pots and stuck them outside to get my rainwater. Yeah. And went up to check it an hour later, and the neighbour's dog was enjoying it, so that was, it was dog 1, Aubz 0. So plan B was, now I have my laundry hamper tied to the top of my clothesline where he can't reach it, so... And I got 2 super bottles of water out of it last night, so that's all good.
And emergency services, how have they been functioning throughout Christchurch?
There are, half the population of Christchurch must be involved in emergency services in some capacity or other, whether it be voluntary or otherwise. There are a lot of guys out there going hard, and we got wind of water this morning, somewhere where we could get it, and everyone's after water at the moment. So we went to Latimer Square, where there's a temporary triage there, a bunch of ambulances with tables and stuff, like a makeshift hospital, and a bunch of other stuff as well, but no water to be had there. And then as we were kind of dispirited and walking home, this guy turned up with an ordinary looking car. It was actually kind of a bogany looking car, but he had this red flashing light on top, and he had this yellow vest on, and told us to jump in. He took us to one of the parks close by town, and it's got a bore set into the park with a hose popping out of it, and it's just got a tap on it. A bunch of people from that neighbourhood was just lining up with bottles and stuff, so we took ours out there, and now we've got about 50 litres. Awesome. Yeah, so we're set for the next couple of days. We're connected to the outside world, we're warm, we have power, we have food, and there are portaloos down the road at the park. So if it wasn't for the portaloos, everything else wouldn't have mattered. My partner would have just moved us to Auckland or something. Yeah, that's right. That's pretty much how we are at the moment. We're pretty well off.
How do people within your community communicate, or who do you liaise with to find out when you can have running water, how you can go about getting to the portaloos and where you can get water from?
Basically, we're just watching TV like everybody else. At the moment, the priority is the safety thing first. The whole downtown area is cordoned off. A lot of people are still trapped in buildings, and I've heard it could be hundreds of people that are still trapped. And the reason we know about them is because everybody has a cell phone, and managed to contact emergency services and tell them about it. So that's priority one, and once everyone's accounted for, then they start working on the infrastructure, which is getting the water back and getting everything back into motion again. The transport's a big issue. They have to clear all the buildings off the streets, and a lot of the streets have big cracks running through them. So it's huge. This earthquake wasn't as big on the Richter scale as the September one, but it was a lot shallower. It was only 5k down, this one. 6.3, so consequently there's a lot more damage this time around, and also a lot more people out and about. It wasn't 4 in the morning this time, it was midday on a weekday. So.
I mean, being in media, you have tendencies to take things like that for granted. What is your perspective, being from Canterbury and watching TV and the media coverage of what's going on in Canterbury?
Well, after the earthquake in September, it became a major talking point.
Yeah.
Talking about the aftershocks was another way of saying you're a Cantabrian, you're from the Garden City. And then after a couple of months, people were just over it.
Yeah.
And no one went out and said, hey, how about that aftershock yesterday? No one wanted to know about it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you go out and buy yourself a new bedroom mirror and tomorrow it's smashed, and that's because there was a cool aftershock.
Yeah.
You know, no one will insure you anymore because you live in Christchurch. It's just a big headache. And then when everything looked normal, we got Boxing Day, and that's, you know, all the Boxing Day sales went out the window because all those shops were closed again. And then this sort of happened. So it's kind of, we're the thick of the earthquakes, really, and watching it, it's kind of, I don't know, there's no morbid fascination, or, hey, I know that guy, or, wow, that's just down the street from where my mate lives. It's, you know, no one wants to talk about the earthquakes anymore. We just want water.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
It's pretty much it at the moment.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Now, originally a Tairāwhiti boy, any urges whatsoever to move home?
Well, they have earthquakes there too. Not as big as ours. But, I don't. Well, my partner's making noises about moving, but then again, it's still sort of early days. Our life is still here. All our friends are here.
That's right.
You know, we've invested a bit in this community at the moment, so that's sort of up in the air. It's going to take a bit longer for Christchurch to bounce back this time, and it may take a bit longer for us to bounce back as well. But I'm sure we will. If there's another major one in the next 2 weeks or so, that's it. There won't be a city anymore.
Yeah.
There'll be a city, but there'll be no one in it.
Yeah.
People they'll just go. There's only so much you can, you know, there's so much you can hold on to.
Yeah. Aubz, I have to be honest with you. I think watching the media coverage, you don't really get a true sense of what it's like to actually live there. So I really must take this time to thank you very much for taking time out of what I know has been an incredibly busy morning and an incredibly busy day for you, just to give us a true insight of what it's like to experience what you've experienced. So from the bottom of our hearts here at Tuwharetoa FM, we really do thank you very much.
Kia ora, Karam.